Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I am Nick from Australia. Tonight's video is going to be the Cronulla Sharks team of the decade from 2010 to 2020. The Cronulla Sharks team of the decade. Now, the Sharks have had a very interesting decade from the first half of this decade from 2010 to 2015. They only played in two final series, 2012 and in 2013. But from 2015 all the way to 2020, they have played finals footy each year, except for 2014 they missed the finals. So yeah, they've had an alright decade. Cronulla, they've made the finals a fair bit. They've been a consistent top 8 side. But before I get into the Cronulla Sharks team of the decade from 2010 to 2020, I just want to say that if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Press that subscribe button, turn the notification bell on so you get a notification on your phone when I upload a new video. So make sure you guys do that. But anyway, let's get into tonight's video. I'm going to go through the 1 to 17 Cronulla Sharks team of the decade that I have come up with. Now, a few of these players are probably going to be from the 2016 Grand Final victory that they had over the Melbourne Storm, as I think most people would know already, because that's probably the best team the Sharks have had this decade. So a lot of these players are going to be from that Grand Final. So I've tried to mix up and put some other ones in there, some wild cards, but let's get into it. So fullback, Ben Barber. On the wings, Sasaya Feki and Valentine Holmes. In the centres, Jack Bird and Ricky Lettelli. In the halves, James Maloney and Chad Townsend. The front row of Andrew Fafita and Sam Tagatese. The hooker is Michael Ennis. The second row of Luke Lewis, Wade Graham. The lock, the captain, Paul Gallen. And on the interchange bench, John Morris, Matt Pryor, Jason Bakuya, and Ben Pomeroy. The coach is Shane Flanagan. Now let me just fix this bloody camera up. Sorry about that, guys. I just rushed into this video. I didn't really set up anything. I just sort of got the laptop out and started recording. Really, I might stand back here a little bit and fix this up. Sorry about the little delay, guys. Bit of a glitch there. Bit of a mess up there. But anyway, so look, I've got Ben Barber at fullback. I think it's a pretty easy one. A lot of people could say Valentine Holmes because he was at fullback for about 2 years or so for Cronulla, and before Val Holmes went over to the NFL, he was probably the best player in the world at the time. So, you could argue Val Holmes, but I think Ben Barber, what he did in 2016 at Cronulla, he had a full year at fullback. When he went to the Sharks in 2015, he played a bit of 5'8", played a bit off the bench, bit of fullback, but he played fullback pretty much all of 2016 and did a great job, and he was a very influential part of that grand final win. So Ben Barber's the fullback. The wingers are Sasaya Feki and Valentine Holmes. Now, Sasaya Feki was a left winger for the Cronulla Sharks. He was a very underrated player. He scored a lot of great tries for the Sharks, a lot of great corner tries, and he was always a reliable bloke. If the ball was about to go over the sideline, or if there was a ball that's going close to the corner or the dead ball line, then you could bet your money that Sasaya Feki was going to get close to scoring that try, or if not, he would score that try. So Sasaya Feki makes the wing. The other one is Valentine Holmes. He played on the right wing for the Sharks, and then he played a little bit of fullback. But when he was on the right wing for the Sharks, he was absolutely fantastic. Arguably the best winger in the world when he was on the wing, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic there. Especially 2017, he had a great year in 2017 on the wing for the Sharks, and he's a very consistent winger when he was down there at the Sharks, so I think he's a no-brainer on the wing. The centres, Jack Bird and Ricky Lettelli. Now, Jack Bird was probably a strike centre when he was at the Sharks. He played on the right side, he played on the left side, played both sides. He was really good at both sides, the Jack Bird, but probably better on the right side, in my opinion, right centre. And you know what? I thought he was really good at the Sharks, and then obviously took that big offer at Brisbane, went up there and had a few injuries, hasn't really been the same player since he left the Sharks. But when he was at Cronulla, I thought Jack Bird was quite strong, and he played a few State of Origins for New South Wales off the bench when he was at Cronulla-Sutherland. So, I think Jack Bird's a no-brainer here as well. The other centre is Ricky Lettelli. Now, Ricky Lettelli was a very underrated player as well. He was a very consistent Sharks player. He always did a job. He wasn't there for a heap of a very, very long time, but when he was there, Ricky Lettelli, I thought he was quite good for the Sharks, and he had a pretty good combination with everyone he played with. He didn't really whinge about where he was playing, which centre, playing left centre or right centre. He just went out and did a job for the Sharks. And, he was a very strong player, Ricky Latelli. So he makes the centres, the halves, James Maloney and Chad Townsend. Now, James Maloney, his first year at the Sharks was quite successful, obviously winning the 2016 Grand Final. The combination between him and Chad Townsend was quite good. They were together for a while in New Zealand when the Warriors were competing for the Grand Final. I think Townsend was like the backup half, and Maloney was the half of Sean Johnson back at the Warriors days. So, they came back together in 2016, and they were a great combination together, Maloney and Townsend, and they were very important on how far the Sharks went onto winning that Grand Final in 2016. So Maloney and Townsend, they complemented each other very well. They were very good. James Maloney probably took more responsibility than Chad Townsend. He probably carried him a bit more. He was more clutch, but Townsend played a pretty good role in that Grand Final and in that season. And they've both been individually. They were both fairly good for the Sharks when they were there. Townsend's still there to this day, but they were a good combination together, and they are both in the team of the decade for the Sharks. The front row with Andrew Fafita and Sam Tagataese. Now, Andrew Fafita, for mine, he's one of the first guys picked in the Sharks team of the decade. Fafita, he's still at the Sharks to this day. I think he joined them in 2011 or 2012, and he's been really good since he's been there. Obviously, at the moment, he's at the back end of his career, and he's had a few injuries, so not sure how many years Fafita's got left in him, but if you have a look at his stint at Cronulla, he's going to go down as a Cronulla Sharks legend, and it's been fantastic for him. So he makes the front row, and the other front row was Sam Tagataese. Now, he was there from, I think, 2011 to 2017, and Sam Tagataese was a very good player, very tough. A lot of people probably wouldn't have Sam Tagataese in their team of the decade for the Sharks, but you got to respect some of these hard players that are just there and they do a job week in, week out. And, I thought he was a really good player for the Sharks, Tagataese. So he makes the front row. The hooker is Michael Ennis. Mick Ennis, we all know he's a sledger. He likes to be a bit of a sledger on the field and off the field as well. Michael Ennis was a very great player for the Sharks. He did well when he was there. And, if you have a look at all the hookers that the Sharks have had in the last 10 years, Michael Ennis is probably the best one I've had. So I think he's a no-brainer. And to see Michael Ennis win a grand final in his very last game was absolutely fantastic. So Mick Ennis is the hooker. The back row is Luke Lewis and Wade Graham. Now, Luke Lewis, I mean, what a player he was. He was a very tough player, a great defender, very good player. He was a great back rower for Cronulla-Sutherland. And, Lukey Lewis, very underrated player compared to other back rowers back in his day. So I think Luke Lewis is a very good player to select in the team of the decade. And the other one is Wade Graham. He left Penrith early and he went to the Sharks. And ever since he's gone there, he's been very successful. He's a good leader, Wade Graham. He's had a few injuries over the years, but when he's on the paddock, Wade Graham is a consistent rugby league player, especially for Cronulla-Sutherland. So Wade Graham is a no-brainer, and I think he makes the back row easily, along with Luke Lewis. The lock is Paul Gallen. Not much to really say about Paul Gallen. Probably one of the greatest Sharks players in a long time. Probably the best Sharks player in the last 20 years or so. As much as a lot of people don't like Paul Gallen, personally, I'm not a big fan of Gal, but you got to respect the bloke. He's had a great career at the Sharks. A great captain, a great leader. He won a grand final for him in 2016. He captained New South Wales to their first State of Origin win in 8 years back in 2014. He's a Sharks legend, and he's one of the first picked in the team of the decade. So Gallen makes the lock position. And on the bench, we've got John Morris there. Now, John Morris' stint at the Sharks was fantastic. He's currently the head coach of the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks, John Morris, and he had a great career at the Sharks. Obviously, the worst part about his career was probably that 2013 semi-final where they lost to Manly, where all he had to do was get out of the way, but he made the tackle, and the Sharks ended up losing that semi-final against Manly because of John Morris's error. But John Morris's career at the Sharks was fantastic, and he was a very good player, and I think he deserves to be in the team of the decade. The other two falls I got, Matt Pryor and Jason Bakuya. Matt Pryor, a very solid player, very underrated. Did a great job for Cronulla. It was very solid for them in that 2016 grand final. He's now playing over in the Super League, but Matt Pryor, probably one player the Sharks probably didn't want to let go, but obviously with the Surrey Cup these days, you can't keep them all. But Matt Pryor was very good at the Sharks. You know, he won a grand final at the Dragons and the Sharks. You know, funny of that, Sharks and Dragons is a big rivalry. So funny how that works out. But Matt Pryor, a great stint at the Sharks, and I think he deserves to be here. And Jason Bakuya, another player who was pretty underrated a little bit. He was very good, Jason Bakuya. He's obviously retired now, Bakuya, but he was quite good at the Sharks as well, mainly off the bench, but did a good job for them. And the last one I have is Ben Pomeroy. Now, Ben Pomeroy is probably more known for his early days, like 2008 and all them sort of that era. But I think he left the Sharks in 2013 or something. But Ben Pomeroy, man, he used to be a really good center. Moved to, I think, back row later in his career. And you know what? Ben Pomeroy, a very solid player. He'll go down as a Sharks legend probably. And you know, I thought Ben Pomeroy was really good for the Sharks, so I think he deserves to make the team of the decade. And the coach is Shane Flanagan. I think that's probably a no-brainer. He took over the Sharks. I think 2011 was his first year there. Then he got sacked in 2014. I think it was. Then he was back in 15, and then he was sacked at the end of 2018. So I think Shane Flanagan's a no-brainer. He is easily the coach of the decade for the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks, and there's not many other guys that come close to that. But that's the Cronulla Sharks team of the decade, guys. Let me know in the comment section below. Is there anyone I missed out in? What's your Cronulla Sharks team of the decade? Let me know in the comment section below. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up tonight's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you guys go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to donate to the channel, if you want to support the channel via PayPal, feel free to do so. There is a link in the description below. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up tonight's video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.